Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us. K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of Whatever on Wednesday. I have my first glitch in the world of live programming, and my guest Just Bam had a family emergency, so I had to go to the bullpen. I know you sports enthusiasts will love my sports terminology. I had to call in my dear friend Annette Osher. She's an entrepreneur. She's resilient, a phenomenal woman. She's a live organ donor. She donated a piece of her liver to her brother, and she's just an all-around wonderful woman. So welcome to the show, Annette. I'm sure everybody can't wait to dive in and hear more about you.
Hi, Joanne. Thank you for having me.
So thanks for coming. So we're going to talk a little bit about love and relationships and dating. We both have different perspectives on it. In some ways, we have the same perspectives, and in other ways, we have different perspectives. You want to tell the listeners anything about you before we jump in?
I'm an owner of multiple businesses. I'm a single mother. I have 3 children. And I'm in the dating world. That's about it.
Well, those are some big areas to focus on. So not only are you an entrepreneur, I want to give you a shout out. You were an entrepreneur from the age of 21. You owned your first business right while you were in college, which I think is phenomenal. And really, it speaks, especially for a young woman. You owned your own bar. And I think that, first of all, it's any frat boy's dream, his girlfriend owning her own bar at 21. So that's something to speak about. But you didn't take it as lightheartedly as that. You were very serious about it. And that really speaks to many of your best character traits. So I think the listener should know that about you. And I will throw in
Go ahead.
Jump in.
Now,
I was going to say,
I've owned multiple businesses. Gratefully, they've been all successful, from the bar business to catering business to golf courses, doing the snack shack on golf courses, to catering huge events at Duke's Grove. So anything that was thrown at me, I took upon myself, and I was successful at it. Luckily, thank God.
And Annette and I actually met because back in another lifetime, I was a bartender, and I worked at one of her establishments. A great time in my life, a lot of fun. I loved, everybody's popular when you're the bartender. So, and we had a lot of male clientele in there, which is really how we started our talking about relationships and dating from behind the bar. And I think it's very difficult when and bartenders are in a position of power, at least during happy hour. And you're not necessarily judged for the person who you are. It's what you can get. You know, people are always interested in free drinks and what's the shot of the day when you're bartending. So I think even back then I started to think about, you know, what my worth was and how were people judging and assessing me and their interest in me. Was it really based on my value, or was it based on what I could offer? And of course, that was a lifetime ago. But what do you think about that? I think especially for young women, we have a difficult time understanding and recognizing that we don't have to settle. We can have standards, and we don't necessarily always have to be the ones who are the givers. We can be on the receiving end of love and attention too.
You're correct, Joanne. Back then, being 21 years old in the bar business was unheard of. The bar business was always a man's business, especially back then, which we're going back about, over 25 years ago. It was very difficult to try to be young, have a young child, and run a business. Everyone was always looking for me to fail, and that was a big thing. They always thought, oh, she's so young, how can she do this? How can she do this? But I did. And the bartenders that worked for me, the women that worked for me, had a lot to deal with. There was always, there was fun times, but there was also difficult times. It was busy. it predominantly men, blue collar workers that worked for us. A lot of them were great friends of ours, but dealing with people who drank too much was very difficult for a bartender and for the owner as well. But the challenging part was to deal with all the business people around me thinking, she's never going to make it. She's never going to make it. And in the long run, I did. I showed them all, and I was very successful at it and was able to sell it and move on to the next project.
You were much more successful than many of the clientele who doubted you there. I mean, we talk about it today, and where are a lot of those folks now? I mean, many of them were alcoholics, and unfortunately, sadly, some of them have lost their lives because they really they didn't believe in moderation. And of course, we're not here to denigrate drinking, but we do recognize at the same time it can be problematic for some people. And we both like to have a drink. Very rarely. We actually are, for two people who are in the bar business, we very rarely drink, either one of us. But it is something that we recognize and we want to shout out there. So fast forward 20 years now. Relationships are much different now. And then even when we speak about relationships, I don't necessarily want to just pigeonhole ourselves into intimate relationships. I think we can talk about friendships. I think even friendships, navigating friendships with other women or even other men. It's a different world today. People have social media, and I really want to talk about, you're in the online dating world. How difficult is it to date when you can go on a date and you see one or two flaws in somebody and you can just swipe left the next night? I mean, it must be very difficult for people to form relationships because you don't necessarily know how many other people are accessible or they're speaking to. I mean, what have been your experiences out there in the dating world?
Well, dating now, I'm recently single since COVID started. Dating during COVID has been almost impossible. Online dating, everyone was, scarce. That's the only word I can say, scarce. Many people are fake. You meet them and it takes a long time to try to meet someone, first of all, to try to, you see a picture and you try to gather information the best that you can. The only way I found is to meet someone in person. Many times I meet people in person and they don't look like their picture. And that is a big problem with online dating, and I hear this from men as well. If you don't look like your picture when they show up, it's really discouraging, and it could be depressing at times because you think, oh no, how many more do I have to go through before I get the right picture or the right person? It's not always about the way someone looks, but we do not have any choice at this point. You can't get to know anyone unless you see a picture and you think, well, this person seems like it's someone I'd like to get to know. And then you move forward and, for the most part, it hasn't been a great experience. Now that COVID is over, people are coming out. Online is still frustrating, and it's more frustrating than ever. I don't know what else to say about it, except for it's very frustrating, and I wish there was a magical way to meet people besides going to a bar right now, but there isn't. We don't have a choice.
I think, speaking about the pictures, you're not necessarily talking about the way, so it really speaks to two sides of the coin. You're out there on social media, and it's very difficult. When we look at pictures today, everybody has a filter, and I've spoken about this before. Everybody can enhance their appearance, and everybody wants to put their best foot forward, and we put up their best pictures. But if you're putting up a picture of yourself from 20 years ago, and then you're going to meet someone on a date, you're also throwing out the perception that you're dishonest from the get-go. And it's not, and I see both sides of it. Nobody wants to put out going to publicize their worst photo for the fear that they're never going to get a date. But of course, at the same time, you don't want to meet somebody who, looks like Sylvester Stallone in their photo, and then they come out and they look like, well, who's the coach there? Paulie, the other one, right? So, yeah, there is a little bit of a divide because obviously we do looks, and when we say looks matter, there has to be some type of attraction. We're not certainly saying that, there's any standard. There's not, but you do want to, it's really disarming, I would imagine, if you see somebody who looks nothing like them. I mean, how do you even recognize them sometimes? I mean, I think that we've spoken about that before. And you can't even recognize the people on some occasions. There's such a discrepancy between their photo and how they walk in the door on a date. So that's got to be a pretty interesting experience.
It is. It's very interesting. If I'm meeting someone, for lunch or for coffee or anything, it used to be when I first started, I would give them time, have a conversation. Not everybody, it's not the appearance of somebody, it's the essence of someone. So who they are inside. So everyone wants to give a chance. All right, let's sit down, let's talk. But I think after doing this month after month after month and having a lot of 99% of the pictures are not true to themselves. And when I sit down and speak to those men, they're not true to themselves as well. I had one person say that he went to Harvard Law School. And then when he got there, he laughed and thought it was really funny. He didn't. And I didn't understand, why would you put that up? And that's the other thing. It's not just the picture, but then you scroll down and you want to see, do they have children? Do they have a job? Do they have any education? So you try to, form an opinion about someone without meeting them. And then when you meet them, most of what they put down is untruth. So it's very discouraging. And then, it used to be I would give, an hour. I've even sat through 4 hours of just talking to someone, giving them a chance. Now, 20 minutes. And that's the way it has to be. If they come in and they don't look like themselves, I don't waste more than 20 minutes. And maybe I'll get lucky one day. Maybe they, even if they don't look like themselves, maybe they'll be a great person. But from my experience, if you lie about your picture, I have to investigate the rest of you because nothing else can be true.
I think too, because we've known each other for so long, and I can speak to this even about myself. I think when we're young women, and particularly when we want to have children, I think, and we're both, we're both in our 50s. We're not 25 anymore. And I think that particularly in our day, there was such an onus on, you needed to be married to have children. And luckily society has changed in many regards. But I think that there were times and instances, and I can certainly say so for myself, where I want to say I compromised. And, I think there's two ways to say it. One is you settled in some regards, but I think of it more as a compromise, because I think that I didn't necessarily pick partners who could give me everything that I wanted and needed, because I had a depth of insecurity and my self-esteem lacked, and I didn't think that I deserved everything that I did. And luckily, in some regards, now as an older woman and as someone geared for growth and introspection, and I've been through an emotional awakening these past 5 or 6 years, and I think that doesn't that factor in now too, because I know that you've gone through a similar experience. And I think that, and I certainly am not calling out men, and I know that many men watch this show and watch this network. I just think that men are more complacent. I think that they're comfortable, they like ease, they accept who they are in many regards. But we're more geared towards growth, particularly when we're done rearing our children. I think that we start to look at ourselves and we start to want more, because especially in our day, we weren't given permission. We didn't feel as if we had the freedom and the permission to want more and to deserve more and to want to be more. And I think, does that factor into your dating life now? You know now that you don't want to settle for less than you deserve.
Absolutely. I think that when we're younger, first of all, we go through stages of our life. You know, we're younger and we're dating, we're having fun. You think that I've got forever. So it doesn't, you know, we're not in a hurry, I should say. Then when we meet someone and we have children, get married, life changes then too. Now you're geared about taking care of your children. You want, you know, success. You think about, you know, what am I going to do in life? And you start hurrying, you know, and life gets so busy, and then you have more children. You know, I have 3 children. And then it becomes about your children. And for me, it was about my children and also about my businesses, because I had one going on as well as the other. The relationships I picked in each part of my life were for different needs. And I think that as I grew out of that need, being seasoned each time, I think I got a little more seasoning. My needs had changed, and I had hoped that my partner would change with me. And it didn't always work that way. As children grow up, you know, they change as well, and they change you, and their needs change. At this point that I'm seasoned and my children are grown, my life definitely has changed. Those needs are no longer there that were there when I was younger, or 20s, 30s, or even in my 40s. Those needs are definitely different now. My life is geared towards the next part of, you know, retirement. If I'm going to retire, if I want to cut back on work, if I want to, you know, if I want any more challenges as far as businesses go, because I've had multiple businesses that have been successful. So I think that now meeting someone, I think it's in a different area. And I think for men that are the same age as us, they're in a different place as well. It doesn't just go for women. We're all in a different area of, okay, what's next? And what's next is you have to be compatible with someone that is on the same level as you. So, you know, what I wanted before this is not what I want now. And what I want now is someone who wants to walk by my side and, you know, and, you know, go into the future with me, you know, especially after COVID. After COVID, it really did, it gave people a chance to think about what is next in life. And for me, what is next in life is, I love my business, but my business is great. I love my children. My children are grown. You know, I've gotten everything I've wanted to by working very hard in this life. Now it's, you know, to meet someone and to enjoy love and hopefully find love again. But in a different, definitely in a different area and a different need now. The need is for myself. It's no longer, doesn't have to include my children or my businesses or anything else. It's for me.
So we have some comments from the audience. First of all, I want to say hi to Dragon Viper and Adam. Thanks for hopping in, and Ashley's on as well. So Adam was speaking about, and I believe it's when we were talking about dating and the misconceptions. But he said it also sucks because so many people draw stereotypes or judgments over small things, and that's from a male perspective. And I think that that's true. I think that for the most part, I think oftentimes, well, I don't know, because I've been out of the dating game for a bit, but, you know, I think that men are more, I don't know what I think. Maybe we need a male perspective. Maybe we need Adam to clarify a little bit more what he means. You know, we're speaking about judgmental. I think that people are judgmental on both sides of the aisle. And I think that, you know, it's hard not to be, especially because we become jaded as we get older. And Ashley's on, and I believe I know Ashley's mom. So I believe and so Ashley's much younger, and she has a great point. She said, once we get to the point of knowing what we want, it's hard to find someone who holds to that new standard. And Ashley's much younger than we are. And Ashley, I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that you know that at a young age, and don't wait to be 50 to learn that. So that's something. And then you have a comment. Jerry Gross popped on and said, Annette, you deserve nothing but the best. So there's a male perspective and someone who knows you as well. So, and Dragon Viper said people stereotype him by his looks all the time, but he's used to it. And I don't think we should ever get used to that. I think we should always, and Bobby's saying we should always be true to ourselves, and that's true. I think that there are people out there, and it's when we allow the people who stereotype us, or we allow ourselves those negative thoughts to seep in, that's when we start to accept people who aren't worthy of us, because we start to feel it. And that internal dialogue, I talk about that all the time. Internal dialogue is so important. And when we start to let other people jade our own perception of ourselves, which is so much easier, we're much more critical on ourselves than other people are. One little comment from somebody can derail years of work or years of self-esteem. And I think that that's always to be mindful of. Think about it in the grand scheme of things, that any little person, any little negative comment, one small thing, that leaves that person's lips and they forget about it. You don't want to carry that. You don't want to make that a life sentence for yourself. And I think that so often we do that.
I agree. One of the stereotypes is our age for women. I had a dating service say to me, well, women your age, men want women in their 30s. And I thought, wait a minute, women my age, and I never thought of it that way, women my age, but I do believe that, once you hit 50, it is difficult, because men, stereotyping, men do want younger women. For what? I'm not sure, but they do. And I also, yesterday was was very interesting. I was in my business and a little boy came up for some ice cream, and he looked at me and he said, boy, you don't look like your picture. And I thought to myself, what is he talking about? And then it was a picture of me from maybe 8 years ago, standing up, at the counter with my son. And I thought, what is he talking about? And, his parents rushed him away, got his ice cream, rushed him away. But it sat with me all night long. I just couldn't get over what was he talking about. I had to look at the picture, and I thought, well, he must have thought, boy, she doesn't look like her picture, because I have aged. I think I've aged gracefully, and I still think I look good, but I definitely don't look like I did 8 years ago. But the little boy noticed, and because of that, it does stick with you. It's like I had to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, what did he see? What was so different? And then I let it go, because kids speak the truth, which is true. They do. But they see things differently in their eyes, and they don't always filter it. So you have to, accept who you are and what age, and that we are aging. It doesn't mean that, we're grandmas, and, at this age, but it does mean that we're not 20 anymore, and it does show, but we're seasoned and successful. So I think that that's great.
Well, I don't want to speak for you, but I will speak for you. I think we both look hot still. So I'm going to go there. I'm throwing that out there. Hot at 30, 40, 50, we are. But I think that's a great point. You read so much into that comment. All he said is that you look different. And somehow you spun that in your own mind to say that he thought you had aged, but your hair color is different, right? You dress differently. There's so many things that could be classified as different in the picture from what you're looking at today. So I think that you spun that tale. He didn't say that. He didn't say you look older. He said you look different.
Yeah.
Could be so that's a story and a narrative that you told yourself, and we so often do that. And Adam clarified that not only do males women stereotype. He's saying that he just meant it on both sides of the aisle, not even on a dating level, which I think is true. Even in a professional level, people stereotype on the job. They stereotype everywhere we go. We talked about it. I mean, when you look at even society today and the hatred, and we talked about this a little bit last week, and it came up in the news again, and I'm not going to delve into that because it's really a different topic. But even, you see the perceptions Asian Americans, elderly Asian Americans are being just approached and assaulted for the perception, and some people are claiming that it's because COVID emanated in an Asian country. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily true. I just think it's an excuse to spread hatred for people who carry hatred. And, it's just like the saying, it's copycatting. We see it all the time. So Tim Fielders is chiming in and saying, my kid told me I'd make a great bald eagle because of my hair loss. And I told her the more wise a person is, more wise. The less hair they have, the more wise they are. So good point, Tim. Good point. I agree. And I will say this. I mean, even for myself as a woman, and I haven't talked about it on this show, but there were 2 periods of my life when I lost my hair, and it's really a difficult time period. So I feel for men and for women. So yeah, that's funny. But Tim, you're handsome. I will say that. I think all the gentlemen that I've had the pleasure to meet on Coast to Coast are handsome. I don't know about, you'll have to speak for Jerry, but
Jerry's very handsome too.
Yeah. So Bobby said, teaching opportunity. Yes, that's a picture from a while ago. This is now better than ever. If a child hears that aging makes them better for experience, they will appreciate their elders more. And that's true. But I think so I think that I would love to go back and speak to that child and know what he meant, because most children are not judgmental and they're forgiving. And he may just have been talking about something so much more simple than we imagined.
Well, when he said that, the first thing that came to my mind was when my son was his age, my son said to my mother, "Grandma, you have so many wrinkles." And I remember grabbing him and shooing him away. So that was the first thing that came into my mind. I was like, oh my God. But, thinking about it, yes, I did dwell on it overnight. But when I woke up this morning, I was like, I don't know what he meant by it, but it's okay. He's just a kid, And I still look good. I still look good, so I'm fine.
And Ashley said that her child sees all people the same, whether they're young or old. And I love that. And I wish that we all saw people the same, whether they were young or old. All right, so let's shake it up. Let's talk about something fun. I don't know. What do you want to talk about? What's some of our most memorable dating experiences? What about the audience? What do you guys have out there? I know that we have some. What do you have on tap?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, dating experiences. Well, I just had someone come up to the window that I dated a while ago, and he got an ice cream, and he recognized me immediately. I didn't right away. And he said his name, and I got the ice cream, and I came back, and I thought to myself, oh, yeah, I remember that. I remember that. He said, oh, I still live at the same place. If you ever want to stop by, you can stop by. And then I remembered why I stopped dating him. So I made a face. I must have made a face because he said, or not. And he walked away. So after I thought about it, I thought, wow, there was a reason why I stopped dating him. And I won't say why. But I thought, thank God he walked away. But that was a funny experience that just happened today. I've had men that, for some reason, expect a lot. They expect you to answer the phone immediately. They expect you to text back immediately. They don't act like adults, like they should. not sure, what relationships have done to them in the past, but we've all been, hurt, or we've been burnt by a relationship, and we've all had um, we've all had issues that we've dealt with. But for some reason, I seem to see men more so, because obviously I'm dating, their issues stem from old relationships, past relationships, that they, instead of getting rid of the negative part of it, they still carry on as if they're in the same relationship. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I don't know if you can elaborate on that, Joanne. But it
I
seems.
can. I think
Go ahead.
I can. I think that it's until we resolve the things that are holding us back, we continually choose the same person. And so whatever, he was attracted to in that person, it's probably a characteristic that you have. And it doesn't necessarily work for him, because if it had worked, he really has to address his own persona and his own issues. And that's really what happens. We keep, in my opinion, we keep choosing the same partners until we resolve the issues that attracted us to that person in the beginning. To really, if you keep choosing people that aren't well suited for you, and that doesn't denigrate anyone. It just means that you aren't perfectly paired. And if you keep choosing that same type of person, you're doing so consciously. And it really takes a conscious break to break yourself out of that pattern and mold. You either have to, and then even then it doesn't work. I've done that myself, where I said something, I consciously said I have to make a change, and I chose a different type of person, but I'm still drawn and attracted to the type of people that I used to date in many regards, because they fulfill some needs for me, because there's unresolved things in my own psyche. So I understand it very well. So Adam said he was dating someone for a while that moved away and didn't tell him. They just stopped calling him. It was weird. So I have a similar story. I was dating someone very casually, but then I just up and got married, and I never told that person I was getting married. I just never called him again. For many years. I don't even know how he found out I got married. So that's interesting. I think that's funny. I remember once somebody came over. I had a roommate in college. And we were out of college. She was in law school at the time, so we must have been out of college. And her brother had this crazy obsession with me, and he used to come over, and I used to have to hide in the pantry until he left. So I went on a few dates with him, but it just didn't work out for me. He kind of had I think he had a drinking problem, and I certainly had my fair share of drinks back in that day, but he was over the top for me. So anytime I saw him coming down the street, I would hide in the pantry. So that's one of my crazy dating stories. But yeah, so the dating world, and I think it's different now. You can track everyone you date. I mean, I have spoken to people who have dated people who put a GPS on their car, or and they know where they are every minute. I mean, if someone gets really attached to you, that's got to be pretty scary in the dating world now.
Yes, it is. And you do have to, sadly, because we don't know, who we're meeting and what they're about. You only know from the surface that there are apps out there that you have to, check out who you're seeing. If do they have felonies? Honestly, I actually, somebody called me and talked to me. It was a very short phone call. Turned out he had felonies, told me on the phone. I had looked him up as I was talking to him. I got his last name, and I had to look it up to see if he had felonies. And he admitted right away. And he said, oh, every girl he talks to, as soon as he tells them they have felonies, he has felonies. But he's a good guy. And he was only in jail for this or that, the other thing, for fighting. And it's very disheartening, because when you find out something like that, and you need to find out at this age, it's not like, again, we're in our 20s and we're meeting people through our friends. Most of my friends are married and they have husbands, or the men have, wives, and they're not going out to bars, they're not hanging out. So you do have to check I always say trust but verify. And, there's people with addictions. There's, alcoholism, there's gambling, there's things that you just don't know about. And who wants at this time in my life, I don't want to start something with someone if I don't know about them and I can't verify it, because I don't want to waste time anymore. At this point we should like get it right. It's like that part of our lives that we need to enjoy. We need to have fun. We need to travel. We need to make plans, um, and actually enjoy it. We've had our kids. It was not easy having children and running a business, but you know what? I did it. But now this is my time in my life. I'm going to travel. I've planned on lots of vacations. In the process, meeting people. The online isn't working so good. I'm hoping that, through friends or just traveling or, one or the other, that I can meet someone and, fall in love again. And that's a big deal at our age. How many men think, oh, I want to fall in love? A lot of people think, oh, that part of my life is over. I'll just take whatever I can get. Not me. I'm not taking what I can get. I want better this time. I already went through, why I needed them to be in my life. And they all served a purpose. As Joanne would say to me, they all served their purpose. But that purpose is all gone. Now the purpose is myself. And it's not selfish, but I want to meet someone who is on my level, who would like to do the things that I want to do, and has a future in mind. Just because we are seasoned and we are in that age group that, man, life should be fun now. We already sweated it out. We worried about bills and we worried about this and we worried about that. And many people may not have a plan in place, and it's not that I have a plan, but it's what I'd like to do this time. I didn't have a choice with the other relationships. I have a choice now, and that's what makes things different for me.
I like much of what you said, but I also want to point out, I think that for me in particular, I don't necessarily look at people's past. I think we all have a past, and felonies are not all created equal. If you have a felony DWI, it's a lot different than if you have a felony murder. So I think that, felonies, I don't necessarily discount anyone based on criminal past. And for many listeners know, I've been in the criminal justice. My day job is in criminal justice for 25 years. And one of our biggest programs is reentry and giving people a second chance. So I want to clarify that. I don't necessarily, I think that we all have a past and we all have made mistakes. So I don't want anybody to think that we're ruling anybody out based on any preconceived notions, because that's certainly not true for me.
Agreed. We're talking about violent crimes. Violence is different. Right. Okay.
So I just want to, I don't want people to misread you there, because I know what you meant. And I think, and the other thing is too, that just because we're not looking for perfection, and I know that you're not looking for perfection, you're just looking for someone who's compatible and who isn't looking for you to take care of them, because we don't want to be parents. I think that when women our age, we have been parents for decades now, and we're always going to be parents, hopefully so. But I'm looking for a partnership, and not someone that I need to parent, or that anyone who wants to parent me. I have 2 parents, and I'm a parent to 3 children. In relationships, I think that you want someone who's a partner, and that doesn't necessarily mean financially. I don't need, and I think that's another thing, as women who in a certain age, we become more financially independent. And I've always been financially independent, and I've never been reliant on, and I've always been a hard worker. I've never been reliant on anyone's money, and I never will be. I'll certainly be willing to share theirs. I'm going to hold on to mine, but if there's any, if this isn't an alternative life, but if there's any rich guys out there. But Randy said, and I want to point this out, that he's saying that the dating world is cruel nowadays, at least in his eyes. And I think that I don't necessarily know if it's the dating world, but I think that there's just a cruelty in the world that I see too. I think that people, especially because there's a certain amount of, there's a degree of anonymity that you can maintain because you can hide behind a keyboard and a phone and a computer, and you can say things that you wouldn't say necessarily face to face. And and that's a large point too, Randy, is that people don't even get to give people a chance to get to know one another. And I think that's because there's such a callous way you can just cast somebody aside by swiping, or I'm not sure how all the apps do it, but swiping left, swiping right, so, up, down, whatever, putting in the trash can, whatever they do. So I think I think you're 100% right. There's certainly a degree of cruelty, but we see it everywhere in the world today. I mean, you see it, the news, there's cruelty everywhere in society, and it's really unfortunate. And I hate to say that, but it's true. But don't give up, Randy, because I think you're charming and handsome, and I have a feeling you're going to find the perfect person for you.
Joanne, you said something about stereotyping, and a big thing out there now is women do have their own money, and it's not that we need someone to take care of us. And I think that when men find women who are attractive but have their own money, have their own lives, and don't need, even though they want someone like us, they feel very intimidated. And that is a big issue. And for guys out there, do not be intimidated by a strong woman who's successful. There's a lot of great perks about a woman like that, because you don't have to take care of us, not financially, but we're all vulnerable, and we all want love, and we all want, somebody to take care of us in some ways, to be there emotionally to support us. But, stereotyping women, who I find it a lot, men think, oh, she owns a business, that means she works a lot. No, I own my own business. I can work whenever I feel like it, or I cannot work when I feel like it. There's times that I have to work just like everyone else. Oh, she owns her own business, and they think, oh, she's got a lot of money. And that's unfair too. Whether I have a lot of money or whether I don't have a lot of money, whatever it is, either way, the stereotype is terrible. And for some men, they think, oh, I'll have an easy life. And I bumped into those men, sadly, and it wasn't until years later that I figured out, that their life was so easy as I was killing myself. And that's that's very unfair, whether it's a woman doing it to a man or a man doing it to a woman. But now in society, now that women are very successful and it wasn't like that years ago. And because we are successful doesn't mean that, oh, you're going to have an easy life. You're still doing the lawn, and you're still doing the things that, we need help with. And if not, help pay for the lawn to get done. But those stereotyping is very serious. And, I hope that that changes. I don't know if it's possible to change, but for someone like me, I have to be cautious when I meet someone. Because, what are they looking for in me? Do they just like me for me, or do they think they're going to have a free ride with me? And that's sad. And I'm not, patting myself on the back and saying, oh, I'm a sugar mama and I don't want that stereotype at all. Sometimes I want to tell people I'm just in customer service. I'm a clerk. I work at CVS as a cashier, just something like that, so that they don't see who I am until they get to know who I am. And that goes for men too. You can't judge a book by its cover. However, until you get to know that person, or they share who they are with you, it's difficult. And that's the dating world. It's difficult. If you can put anything on it, it's difficult, with exclamation points.
Well, it's funny that you say judge a book by its cover, because Dragon Viper said the same exact thing. He said, that's it. People judge looks and other things without giving that other person a chance. we judge a book by its cover. And that's very true. And that hasn't changed. I mean, that's not new to the 21st century. I mean, I remember back when I was in high school and, I had like 3-inch thick glasses and like this home perm from hell that my mother gave me. And, I was chubby, and certainly I didn't get any dates in high school. I'll say that. So I think that that's, people always judge the book by its cover. And I think that I always had a great, I don't want to pat myself on the back either, but I think I always had a pretty good sense of humor. I was always kind and nice and a good personality, but that didn't really account for much in high school. You couldn't see past that with the perm and the glasses. So. And the Catholic high school uniform. So I didn't get many dates back then. But I do want to bring this up, and I think that is something that you and I have talked about many times, and we're going to steal from Matthew Hussey, who we both listen to quite a bit. But one of my favorite things that he says, especially for women who, or for anybody who's questioning what someone's interest in them is do not invest in someone
unless they invest in you.
But it's a little bit different. He's saying don't invest in someone based on how much you like them. Invest in someone based on how much they invest in you.
Yes.
Because there are many people in my life who I've liked very much, and I would say that I've adored them, but their investment in me wasn't the same as my investment in them. And I don't even need 50-50. I'm very honest about that. I'm over the top. I'm an over the top person when it comes to love and giving. And I don't think everybody has the capacity I have. And I recognize that. And Nat, you'll attest to how I am when it comes to that. So I look at it like a number line, and I've spoken about this. May have even talked about it last week or on a different show, but I'm a +4, and I'm going to be a +4 in many regards. And you can be a -4, and we can still meet at 0 and balance that out on the number line. But I think that sometimes I'm going to only be a +2, or I'm going to be a -2, and I need you to be a +2. I don't need equal investment, but I need a valuable investment. I need you to, I don't want to text. And somebody else said something very significant to me very recently, and it stuck with me, and it really changed my whole line of thinking in many regards. They said, how can you be in love with someone who only considers you an afterthought? And I thought to myself, yeah, there are people in my life who I believe consider me an afterthought, and it's really difficult to look past that. Now that it's been raised in my consciousness, it's there. And I think that people really need to take a look at their value and the investment that others are willing to place in them. And Courtney Lynn Groves came on. Hi, Courtney. Thank you. She loved that statement. And I think that that's very important. I don't know if you're speaking about the investment statement, but I believe that you probably are.
I agree. One of the things that also, we do listen to Matthew Hussey. He had mentioned, said, did you ever walk down the street and wonder, how did he get her or she get him? How is that possible? And one of the things he says is we don't know the dynamics, but the fact is that it's not about how good you look or, what shape your body is in. It's about the essence of who you are. And I think that that's an issue with people. They can see, attraction. Obviously, people live, they're attracted to people and they approach people like that. But like you said, you were in high school and, your hair and, if they would have gotten to know you, Joanne, the essence of you is you are the most incredible, beautiful woman I've ever met in my life inside. And then your outside just becomes like a shining star. Your beauty, inside outpours on the outside as well. But I think that's a big problem. People don't give people enough time to get to know who they are and their essence, because that's, the people who do get into relationships with, maybe they're not up to other people's standards, but it's because they are wonderful people. So I don't think it's about the outside. I really think that everyone needs to give other people a chance to get to know them inside and get to know, what they what makes them, happy. You know, um, what do they think about life? What are, you know, what do they want to do in life? Who are they? And that is a big question. And if they're nice, you can only find out, is their core real? And I think that's a big part because, there's a lot of fake people out there, and you can almost get fooled by it because they see, wow, this person is wonderful on the outside. And then it takes a long time to get to the inside core, and they're really not good people. So I think everyone should give other people a chance. It's not a matter of what you look like or what you have or how much you own or anything like that. It's about who you are.
I think that's so important, but I think that it also speaks to people who want or who need trophy partners, who settle for people who look good, even though they make them unhappy behind closed doors. Do it because of their own character flaws and because of their own insecurities. They need this trophy person on their arm because they think that this person is elevating their worth. Their looks are elevating their worth, even though you're miserable behind closed doors. And you see it so often, especially in this celebrity world. If beauty and attraction were what made sustainable relationships, we wouldn't have so many divorces in Hollywood. I mean, and that's just a point blank fact. So you can take these trophy wives and these hunky husbands or whatever you have, but they're only going to sustain you for so long, and they just rob you of so much time. I mean, when you really look at the value of the inside of a person and stop worrying about what everybody else's perception is of your value, then your life is going to be so much happier. And I'm not saying that I've perfected that. I haven't. I make gains every day, and I think that that's always part of my message, to try to live your authentic self. And that's not an easy task. It's not. I mean, and it's not, self-esteem. It doesn't come easy. It's work. But I think that would really make the dating world a much better place.
I agree.
And I want to say, Bobby mentioned that she lost her cousin to COVID on Mother's Day, and we're sorry for your loss. But that completely changed her perspective, and she now realizes that life is now, life is today, and I think that that's very important. I think we all lost so much time this past year, and that's significant to note. I think that who would have imagined a pandemic? Who would have thought that we would be behind closed doors for a year? It really made me appreciate so many aspects of life. And I think that, it's one of the reasons I got into podcasting and shows, to broaden my horizons, to meet people around the world, and to give myself new opportunities. And I think that that's something that we all should consider. We should consider broadening our life with the time that we have, because the reality is I could get hit by a bus tomorrow, and I think I've squandered enough years worrying about what I look like, and I think that that's really such a waste of time, valuable time. I wasn't thin enough to go to that party, or I didn't look good enough in that outfit to go to the bar. And think about it. Who cares? People who love you don't care if you're, and luckily I don't have those same issues anymore, but people who love you don't care how tight your jeans are. I mean, your girlfriends will always tell you, but they still want to hang out with you, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. And COVID has changed, even my own perspective. I worked so many hours, and I worked because I wanted to accomplish so much at a certain age. And after COVID, I realized, you know what? I have accomplished things, maybe not all of it, but I'd rather be happy now in life, and I'd rather go on vacations. And, I just got luggage for my birthday from a girlfriend because I made, I have booked 7 vacations. I have managed to work out my business so that people will run it. And I'm going on 7 vacations because life is so short, and because COVID was so long. I luckily didn't get to feel the first 6 months. I was too busy working. I stayed open, but the winter months were horrific. And for those of you who stayed for those, 12 months, 15 months in lockdown and stayed inside, I feel so, so sorry. And, I have a different appreciation for life now. And life is short. And you know what? I want to enjoy it while I can. And those months that, I normally didn't take off, those summers, the pool that sat there, not any longer. I'm going to enjoy my life. And if somehow someone comes along that fits in it, and that's a wonderful human being and a different person than what I have found in the past, I think we're going to have like a committee to help me choose which guy I should pick when he comes along, just because my feelers weren't so great in the past, but I think they're much better now. I think that my wants, my needs, everything has changed, and my perspective about life and how short it is and how I want to do things. And, one of the vacations I'm happily going with is Joanne. So girlfriends are really important. That's another thing, friendships. One of the things, we were so busy, with life, that we forgot about our friends, and our friends forgot about us. And now that a lot of us, like our kids are grown, we're all connecting and we all want to get together. It's almost like, it's been like a dream. Like all these years have passed by and now we woke up and it's like, oh my God, who I used to be, is still inside there, just a lot smarter and a lot more seasoned. So yeah, I look forward to the future, and I look forward to all the friends that I have and all the girlfriends and even guy friends. Oh my God, even the guy friends are showing up from 25 years ago. My first love called me on the phone and said hi. I almost fell down, maybe it's more than 35 years ago, almost fell down when he called. But people are reaching out, and I think it's wonderful. Especially women or men, get back with your friends, get back, remember who you used to be, and you're a better person now, and go with that and enjoy life.
Well, I love old friends. So I'm going to close it on a couple notes. We're getting near the end. First, I want to thank you I failed to thank you for those wonderful compliments, and I appreciate that very much. And you're beautiful on the inside and outside as well. I think you've just made a great segue, is that we could have a little dating game for you. Whatever on Wednesdays, we could bring in some of your prospects and we could all vet them here on the show live. We'll see if Dragon Viper and Adam approve. We'll get a male perspective. So put that on your bios now. They have to clear the public scrutiny of whatever on Wednesday in your dating profile.
I'll never find anybody, Joanne.
And I do certainly want to speak to, when we said that we were going to speak about all types of relationships tonight, and we kind of veered off into intimate relationships, but there's nothing more valuable than friendships. And I think your oldest and dearest friends and the people that you connect with, some of the people that I cherish most are certainly from high school, my earliest days, because they knew you and they loved you at a time when you had nothing and you were just developing. And I really have some special people in my life from those periods, and people that I've dated, they're still special parts of my life too. So I think that those are relationships that they're priceless. They're really priceless relationships, not just the intimate ones. I think in many instances, the ones who aren't intimate are more valuable than the ones that are.
Agreed.
The sustainable ones. So thank you so much for coming on. If anybody is in this area, Annette owns a very successful ice cream shop, the Farmer's Daughter Drive-In. Check that out if you're ever in upstate New York. And you'll get to see her firsthand. You get to see that picture she's talking about. She's probably ripped that down now and has some photoshopped picture of her in fishnet stockings and an ice cream cake. That's something to look forward to. I'll keep everybody posted. So thanks for joining in, guys. We appreciate it. All right, talk to you later.
I love you. Thank you.
I love you too.
Bye.
All right, thank you. You can play us out, Chris.